You can start now.
Yeah. Somebody is talking, but
Chidanandji, you can start now, please.
Namaste. Good evening, everybody. We have actually a bit of a challenging topic this evening, where the word understanding is so commonly used everywhere, but our context is of a very deep kind. Understanding eludes the conditioned mind. Why does it do so? You and I are all the time using thought to solve problems. In order to solve problems, we try to understand the problem. We want to have, as we sometimes use the word, a clear understanding of the situation. Okay, to use such appropriate words is fine, but how do we come upon right understanding? How do we not go from one misunderstanding to another? In my college days, I was part of a voluntary group who once offered to help our neighboring college. Our neighboring college was a medical college, and these medical college students used to play cricket on a ground, and we guys from the engineering college saw that that ground had many small holes. Listen carefully. One day, very enthusiastically, some of us went to those medical boys and said, give us a few hours on a Sunday morning. We are a voluntary group who do social service. We will fill up all those small holes on that ground so that next Sunday when you come to play cricket, you will have a nice level ground. They were very happy to get this offer from students of the neighboring college, not their own. They said, please do it for us. I too was among a group of some 20 boys. On Sunday morning, we went and with some little instruments, tools, and so on, equipment, we sweated it out for 4 hours. Then we came back very satisfied. One of the medical college students was a good friend of mine too. So after 3 or 4 days, I met him somewhere and said, how was our job? We, the students of engineering college, offered you a service. We made the ground level. Aren't all the holes gone? The dips gone? And that guy was a very witty fellow. He looked into my eyes and said, you guys came, you indeed filled the holes, but while leaving, you left behind craters. He criticized us, saying, we left behind craters. Of course, it's too big a word. What he meant was, it's because we had gone with some NCC shoes and all that. Apparently, we created some other uneven surfaces which were larger than the uneven surfaces which we had leveled. I kind of consider that appropriate to mention here. When with thought we want to solve problems, lofty seers like Krishnaji point out that this thought may solve two problems, but will end up creating 10 new problems, bigger problems. Thought is constantly or ever limited. Thought rooted in memory, thought stuck in its beliefs, thought, always limited by varieties of conditionings, cannot get the right understanding of the situation. You and I feel helpless. Sometimes to read Krishnamurti is the sure way to get frustrated. Lot of people get utterly frustrated by reading Krishnamurti. And then I would imagine if they were to say to Krishnamurti, we are frustrated at what you have shown, he would perhaps with a mischievous smile say, that is good. My teachings are working on you now. Because the good kind of frustration is the beginning of opening of new avenues. When materialists get frustrated with their materialism, they open up to spirituality. As long as materialism gives to them that false satisfaction, why would they turn towards something higher, something spiritual? The powerful superpowers of the world are always playing with the whole globe. Countries like United States, whether they admit or not, they are constantly doing global policing. They go to Vietnam saying we will solve the problem of Vietnam. They go to Afghanistan saying we will solve the problem of Afghanistan. They go to Ukraine, they go to, now they may enter Taipei, Taiwan. They are ready to go to any other country, though they don't welcome anybody to come to their soil. They will go to different parts of the world and engineer something. And what a shame, in the case of Afghanistan, for example, after 20 years of controlling Afghanistan, United States, in a hurried operation, leave the country. And what is the result? Total chaos. In fact, many of you must have read the news those days. The United States was rescuing some US nationals. They were trying to save their own citizens. You know what happened in the process? As they were evacuating US citizens, they actually just fired in different directions, suspecting that some Afghan soldiers would jeopardize their plans. But in the process, the United States bullets killed a number of civilians. They were very particular, very keen to save, to airlift their citizens. Their strong belief seems to be the price of one US citizen is equal to 1,000 Afghan citizens or Indian citizens or Vietnamese citizens. What a distortion of justice. But they would call it practical wisdom. So this is what I am talking more as an analogy. I am not an authority on US or USSR or Russia these days. And for that, you ask some people in external affairs ministries, or consult somebody who has a degree in international affairs from Harvard or JNU. But I tell you, JNU has its own perception, Harvard has its own bias, Oxford will have its own vested interest. In recent times, have we not had many cases where the BBC, which claims to be impartial, was very, very biased towards certain incidents and events that happened in India? The British Parliament is divided, has its bias with respect to various issues. One member of Parliament got up other day and said In India, they built a temple over what was a mosque. Ah, what a shame. Another member of parliament got up and shouted at equally loud voice in the British parliament. There is video available of it. He said, they built a temple over a mosque, but 500 years before and all along several thousands of years before that, it was a temple. Now, we are not into temple or mosque issue, but think of those educated members of parliament of Britain, half of them calling it a mosque which was destroyed, half of them calling it a temple that was reclaimed. That is what thought is. For me, in this talk, what is important to show how thought is conditioned. If your thought is conditioned against Jewish people, everywhere you will see things where Jewish people are terribly wrong. Arabs are so innocent. If your thought is conditioned against Arabs, in a number of cases, you will call Arabs the most wicked people. And the Jewish people, alas, for hundreds of years, they have been persecuted wherever they went. They were hounded. Holocaust happened against them. Oh, ho, and so on. So, where is the truth? That is where, without going to all kinds of examples, let me come to the topic. Understanding is not through thought. And at this point, I will read a few lines by Sri Krishnaji. Krishnaji has said in one of his talks in Paris, I believe, 7th September 1961. And the very first line is very thought provoking, if not thought transcending. The first statement by Krishnaji, understanding is not a matter of time. You and I wonder, our eyebrows go up. What does he mean by saying understanding is not a matter of time? Ordinarily, you and I say to a friend, give me some time. Let me understand this problem. Come tomorrow. By 24 hours, I will get to understand this problem. And Krishnaji throws a bombshell here. Understanding is not a matter of time. Then he elaborates back to Krishnaji. If you set out to understand each influence, you will be dead by the time you understand all of them. Going to the past, going to those events, who had what influence on me, who made me lean towards communism, who made me lean towards socialism, who made me lean towards traditional religions, who made me what I am today. At this age of mine, this can be said about any of us here, I am the product of so many influences. Krishnaji says here, if you set out to understand each influence, you will be dead by the time you understand all of them. But if you understand fully one influence, you smash through all influences. Very interesting. If you fully understand one influence, you smash through all influences. This has a striking resemblance to an Upanishadic statement in Mundaka Upanishad. Is there something knowing which everything is known? There's a question like that in the Upanishads. Back to Krishnaji. If you fully understand one influence, you smash through all influences. And then he clarifies. But to understand one influence, whether it is good or bad, noble or ignoble, is irrelevant. Don't try to put it in categories. Understand the influence without being in a hurry to label it as bad influence or good influence. To understand one influence, you have to go into it thoroughly, completely. To go into it completely, there must be no fear. So on, he says. I have been pondering this question for some time. What under the sun is this understanding, which is not in time, which is not out of thought, which is not through analysis, which is not through systems of logic? How does this understanding take place? I need to study more here. I need to reflect more. However, with whatever little I know so far, it seems to me this understanding is a certain insight which breaks through conditionings. It arises, as Harshadji often says, freedom has to be in the beginning, which I found difficult to understand in the beginning. Now some sense is coming up. I'm making some sense of it. Having freedom in the beginning itself, not at the end of the journey. Having no bias at the beginning itself. Having an open mind. Or if there is a certain silence, we are not clinging to this opinion or that belief, though they are all there at some corner of ours. But in a certain investigation, we are not holding on to any belief. Then an insight can dawn upon us. Incidentally, the word insight, intuition, creativity, etc., are used quite a lot in science. But science doesn't go that deep as these mystics like Krishnaji do. For Krishnaji and such seers, they in fact bust the very self in us. Whereas the insights that scientists get, it actually unravels typically a secret of the phenomenal universe. Long back in Rajghat Besant School, I rarely used to go to the school library, but once I just dropped in and I picked up a book by Chandrasekhar. Chandrasekhar, most of you know, was the nephew of C.V. Raman. And while C.V. Raman did all his work in India, Chandrasekhar at a certain young age went over to United States, became a US citizen, and he was a very eminent professor in Chicago, astrophysics or some such thing. And later on, after retirement, he wrote a few memoirs, his memories. In a book of memoirs, Chandrasekhar writes about a colleague of his. I'll try to get that at some time. In fact, our Kabir Jayatirtha told me, Chidanandji, go read that book. So that's why I went there. So in that, Chandrasekhar says his colleague, whatever his name, let us call him Smith. Some Smith was conducting a very advanced experiment where a beam of light, maybe laser, had to strike a small piece of test element. And over the days, the scientist was convinced that he was going to place a small piece of lead, Lead. Lead is an element, as you know, in the periodic table of Mendeleev. Lead, for which the symbol is Pb. And he said, okay, tomorrow morning I'll do that. That will give me the desired results. That will open up the secret of what I have been pondering. And next morning, after an early breakfast, he is walking through the corridor to the laboratory. And he is thinking, moment I go to the laboratory, I reach the place, I will tell my attendant, he had an attendant, look, Robert, bring a piece of lead, place it here. We will start the experiment. Make the laser beam fall upon it, something like that. But this Smith, as he was walking through the corridor with a lot of expectations, I believe, had a strong voice coming from within himself. He did not understand where this voice was coming from. He as though heard, or maybe in the mind there was a strong thought. No, not lead, but place zinc, Zaden. place zinc. Smith was wondering who the hell this is. Who is speaking into me? I have no basis or no reason to place zinc there. Whereas for lead, I have some logic. I'm going to place lead only, not zinc. But the voice became so strong, you know, maybe that is how Moses got commandments or Muhammad got some revelations from those Gabriel or some angel, or the rishis got some shruti from the sky. We don't know. But Smith got a strong voice speaking to him. Don't place lead, please place zinc. And when he went into the laboratory, there was no more of resisting. He tells the attendant, Robert, get a small piece of zinc and place it there. And showed you the place, location, and we'll start the experiment. And that day, with zinc in place, he got some spectacular results. He was able to understand some phenomenon leading to great recognition in the world of scientists and all that. So that's also kind of insight, where not the logic in his mind, the reason in his mind, not the memories of experiments conducted in the past, but while all of them probably had played a role, we don't totally dismiss them. Something deeper inside had taken charge. That's how Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan is known for a statement. Using the word religion, he said, religion is not against reason, religion is beyond reason. I don't know whether Krishnaji would have liked such a statement. Maybe Krishnaji would mock at it, saying that, ha ha ha, saying religion is beyond reason, all the gurus get a nice chance to exploit their followers. So they were telling the followers, believe me, I'm telling you something which may look unreasonable, but it is beyond reason. Krishna's heart burned looking at the exploitation in the world. Therefore, he went to the extent of saying all gurus exploit, where I have personally a little difficulty. Maybe Ramana, Nisargadatta, etc., are not to be included then in that expression gurus. Maybe Krishnaji would just smile away if we were to mention Ramana's example or Nisargadatta's example. That's another issue altogether. But interestingly, is it not wonderful that thought is a domain? Thought, reason, reflecting, remembering something, and collecting data, collecting information about Jewish people or Arabs, collecting information about Hindus and Muslims, reading big books of history by Ramachandra Guha or Romila Thapar. There are all these very scholarly historians. Read him, read her, and form opinions, make particular pictures, images of communities, castes, groups, or why talk of others? Make an opinion about yourself and then feel weighed down by the weight of that opinion. One morning say, there is no sinner worse than me. And another morning dance, I am almost near Vivekananda, and so on. What is all going on? Thought is constantly doing some tamasha. Thought is labeling us, pigeonholing us. Thought is either praising us or throwing us down on the ground. We can't understand what thought is doing. All we have to realize is thought has these limitations. You and I therefore need to reflect on such insights which show the limitation of thought and not force silence upon us, but seeing the limitation, seeing the shortcomings of ordinary logic, Western logic or Eastern logic, Western systems or Eastern systems, all of them have their own logic, not getting carried away by any particular philosopher. Socrates or Plato, Chanakya or somebody from our own soil. All of them are okay in their own place. But can we let go of the burden of what we have read, what we have heard, and can we give a chance to that amazing light within ourselves to come out with some insight? It seems that Krishnaji threw a lot of light on an understanding that arises out of silence, alert silence, where thought and memory do not interfere. It remains a puzzle to me. Perhaps it is a puzzle, only it is not to be opened up to the extent of putting it in words. Yet it's very puzzling, very amazing, but makes a lot of sense, though we are not able to bring it within the frame of reason. Thank you. Let me pause here and listen to others for 15 minutes now. As you know, my voice is so
Voice
bad.
not.
Namaste.
Thank you very much. Special thanks. Even you were suffering from cold.
Sushilji, please unmute yourself.
Prasad sir.
Sushilji, please.
Prasad. No voice is coming, Modak.
Oh, some problem is there.
Problem.
Pradeep sir is there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, all our mics got
Okay.
muted a moment ago.
Hmm. Some problem? Modak, is there some problem?
No, I am trying to unmute. He is there.
Now it is okay.
To unmute now.
Okay, okay. Now, please go ahead, Prasad sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
I heard Swamiji. As usual, it is very enlightening because thought, of course, we all know, has its own limitations. That is what Swamiji was saying. We have to understand the limits of thought. In this context, recently I saw a video of Krishnaji, which is something funny. He said, there is nothing to learn about yourself. What is there to learn about yourself? We say, we say self-knowing. Self-knowing is important. But he said, after all that, what is there about self to learn? There is nothing to learn about self. Self is such a figment. It's a fragment. There is nothing there in yourself except a tradition, except your boyhood, childhood influences, your parental dictates. Accepting that, what is there in the self? What is there to learn about it? I mean, it may not make sense to most people, but I think there is a lot of meaning in that. We are all caught with the self. And once you get that understanding of the self, that really speaking, there is nothing there. Even though, I mean, society creates, it works on that basis that you are a self, you have a self, you are an individual, you are recognized in the Constitution of India and all the other statutes. Society functions on that basis. But actually, if we really think, possibly there is no self at all in that philosophical level. If you move out of this thing, and once you get that idea that yourself is nothing, and he also says nothing is no thing. So yourself is a nothing. Actually, I was reminded of a small dialogue in one of the plays of Shakespeare. There, Hamlet is the prince, and he is trying to play the madman. And some people, some pseudo friends come to him and try to catch him. And one of the dialogues goes like this. He says, a king is a thing. Hamlet says, a king is a thing. Then that pseudo friend says, wonders, exclaims, it was horrible for him to think that the king is a thing. And then Hamlet adds, of nothing. That is, a king is a thing of nothing. So it's so funny. For me, what Krishnaji is trying to say is that yourself is a thing of nothing. Once you get that feeling, you catch that insight, possibly there is a dawn of silence. Silence arises because you are out of all these permutations, combinations, and all these things. Some silence is there. And the silence ultimately is conducive for understanding. Understanding comes out of silence. Krishnaji gives that example of you trying to understand a child. How do you understand a child, he says? You can understand the child only by observing him in silence. So you see his pranks, his playing with the toys, his throwing the toy down, breaking it up, fighting with the other child. All these things you have to observe. The capacity for observation must be there. Recently, Harshadji was showing me a small small bird floating in the air, hanging to the branch of a tree and things like that. That is, the Krishnaji is a type of observation for my mind, because his observation is so evident in all these, particularly in his commentaries of living. That observation, we don't have that observation. We look at a flower, just pass it by. Whereas I think Pradeep ji is also an exemplar of observation, because that is his science and all that. So once there is silence, there is observation, and from that observation, this understanding comes. But most of the time, we have no time to observe anything. The politicians don't observe, they have only ideas. There is very little observation in our lives, I think. But we have a lot of ideas, always talking, chattering, ideas. So there is little appreciation. There is no aesthetic sense also, because we have no observation. So nature's beauty it may be there before our eyes, but we don't observe it. So, sir, I think observation, silence, understanding, all these things go together. That self, not being engrossed with yourself, because it is a thing of nothing. So all these things are conducive to understanding. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Pradeep ji, please unmute.
Thank you. I'm audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I listened to Swamiji's good lecture. One thing struck me, and that is one, if you can understand one influence, you understand everything. I will say, if you understand the influenced, that is me, you, not you. If I understand myself as that one which is a variously conditioned person, and all of us are conditioned variously, nobody can deny it. So that one thing influenced is me, and if I can understand myself, and for that they use the term moment to moment awareness. And initially Swamiji talked about that understanding is not time bound. Another interesting thing. So this moment to moment, it means that moment is also not in time. First thing. Then we are conditioned, there is no doubt about it. And how I observe or listen to is also because of that inherent conditioning in me, which is centuries old. I'm not saying, I'm not making it difficult, that it's not easy. Difficult, it is not easy to come out of it. It is there, possibility is there. But self-knowing, again, this was talked about in last lecture or so, self-knowing and self-knowledge. So self-knowing, I may say, self-knowing is not time-bound because I am aware and attentive, attention is there, and seeing things as they are in me, my thoughts including. So time for me may not be there, but time, chronological time is always there. Once I will awaken to this thing, because what we are ultimately are the knowers, not the body and the mind. Knowers, and having capability of seeing things as they are. And it starts with me. That much I can say. There, I can say this much, and I want to say this much. Thank you very much.
Dinesh Waghmare, please.
First of all, thank you very much, Sushil Kumar Gill Saab, for giving me the time to say something. Today's topic is understanding how it eludes the conditioned mind. Swamiji has kept a very good subject, and it is the heart of the JK teachings, in my views. First of all, let us see what is the meaning of eluded. Eluded means to manage to avoid being caught, to be difficult or impossible to remember, to escape by being quick, skillful or tricky, escape the understanding or grasp of. If you something eludes you, you do not successful in achieving it. So actually what happens, we are in our mind many words. The words are basically, we are having our own meanings, and that has come from our conditioning basically. But as far as dictionary is concerned, it covers many aspects, and JK has clearly told, as far as understanding is concerned, one has to see the totality of it, not the particularity of it. So we have seen the meaning of understanding, how it is eluded. Eluded, we have seen. Now what is understanding? What dictionary says first, we will see that, then what JK says, that we will see, and then we will I will say my views on that. Understanding dictionary meaning. There are actually 9 meanings of understanding in dictionary, but dictionary is covering most of the things in intellectual domain only, and not beyond that. It is very interesting. JK has used this word in a different way. That also we will see later on. First, Dictionary meaning the knowledge that somebody has of a particular subject or situation. An informal agreement, showing kind feelings towards somebody, sympathetic. This all comes under understanding. The ability to know why people behave in a particular way and to forgive them if they do something wrong or bad. The way in which you think something is meant is very interesting. The way in which you think something is meant. To know or realize the meaning of something. To know how or why something happens or why it is important. To know somebody's character and why she behaves in a particular way. And the ninth point is to have heard or been told something and you believe it and you make it as your understanding. So these are the dictionary meanings, but JK has used it in a different way. Now what is that? So what is understanding as per JK? But prior to that, we have to cover the totality. So there are so many synonyms of understanding which are coming very close to it, and that also one has to see. Otherwise, he will not grasp the exact meaning of understanding. The synonyms are comprehend, comprehension, meaning to have a clear or complete idea of, with understand something, sometimes stressing the fact of having or attend a firm mental grasp of. This is comprehensive. They say, example they have given, you may understand the instructions in a handbook without completely comprehending their purpose. Here also mental aspect is considered, intellectual idea is considered. Other words, realize means to come to understand clearly. Recognize means to identify something or some on some previously known or seen. Also to admit or to be aware that something exists is true. So recognition is also there. Then cognizance, detailed knowledge about or understanding of something, but here mainly senses are involved. Then awareness, so close words. Knowledge, consciousness, or interest, the quality of state of being aware. Knowledge and understanding that sometimes something is happening or exists. Means knowledge and understanding both combined together. That's what dictionary says. It is concept about knowing, perceiving, and being cognizant of events. Awareness is understood as being consciousness itself. The state of awareness are also associated with the state of experience, so that the structure represented in awareness is mirrored in the structure of experience. So the another word comes very close, experiencing. If you experience something, it happens to you, you feel it. It also covers under going, having, enduring, seeing, knowing, witnessing, suffering, sustaining, receiving, encountering, going through, testing, digesting, assimilating, etc. Here, direct observation, participation, directly perceiving is involved. The process of getting knowledge or skill from doing, seeing, etc. And after all these words, there comes an important word, and that is learning. Learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behavior, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences. Some learning is immediate, induced by a single event, that is burning a hot stove, burning by a hot stove. But much skill and knowledge accumulate from repeated experiences. Means burning, if your finger is burned, you directly get the understanding. But in other cases, you have to go through the repeated experiences, a process that leads to change. Very important. Learning is a process that leads to a change. This is interesting. Now, what JK has not even not only considered all these meanings in his teaching, but he has gone beyond that. And what he says, what is implied in understanding? Is it verbal understanding, a comprehension through verbal communication, a description, a comprehension through affection, or is it an insight into something which is rather complex and confused? Or does understanding takes place not merely through words, not merely through description, but going beyond the words, which means both you and the other are free of the verbal structure, which is the nature of thought, and penetrating and having an insight. You understand? We are talking of understanding psychologically, aren't we? Deeply, not the mere worldly understanding, but more the understanding which brings about an insight. An insight means having a sight in something which then becomes the truth. And I can never go back from it. When I understand something, which means I have an insight into that, and therefore that very insight will wipe away any misunderstanding, any complexity. You have clear sight in that. So he has extended this understanding to insight. Further, he says insight is not a movement, it is a direct perception. Understanding only takes place in a flash, not in the process of time, which Swamiji has also told. Understanding a fact is not to have an opinion about the fact, but to have the capacity to look without judgment, to look without words. Hence, there is understanding only when the mind is quiet. Insight gives you truth. So as for JK, when you understand truth, that is real understanding. When you understand truth, that is real understanding. Perception of truth gives you wisdom. Further he says. So wisdom is daughter of the truth and intelligence is the daughter of wisdom. However, and he further also says that for this, the mind has to be quiet, which Swamiji also indicated. However, as per my views, if your past conditioning is diluted, you have completed self-knowing to a great extent, a substantial purification of mind has taken place, quiet and internal order gained, then complete quietness of mind or no thought is not must. Insight can come despite of thought and understanding can be reached in any particular case. If this is not so, on this I would like to ask Swamiji also his views. If this is not so, then there will be a paradox of whether silence will be first or understanding will be first. I would repeat, there will be a paradox of whether silence will be first or understanding will be first. I would also like to introduce here intellectual understanding means your thought, reality, and another is you understand actuality, a fact. Your whole system, mind means intellect, feelings, emotions, heart, senses, body, etc. So this can be said as actual understanding. When your whole system is involved, then you can say that it is a total understanding. So now I would like to have the views of Swamiji, whether silence will be first or understanding will be first. This is the paradox.
Nobody is able to answer you. Swamiji has left it.
Okay then, thank you.
And Mr. Adeen.
Yes.
What is the pronunciation? Please say your name.
It's Adeen. Adeen.
Okay.
Yeah, Adeen. So,
Adeen.
yeah. So I had a question actually. So one understanding is through knowledge, through reading outside, to talking with others, to listening to other people. That is one understanding, gaining knowledge. And so that is based on knowledge. And but if, for example, if I sit and if I look at my own thoughts and feelings, suppose I don't need any knowledge to do that. I don't need to read books to do that. I don't need anyone to tell me how to do that. I just have to probably close my eyes and sit and see what is going on in my mind, thought and feeling. So on the one hand, thought is based on knowledge which is going outside. We are reading and discussing. On the other hand, it is also possible to look at what is happening in the mind without need for any outside knowledge. But then my question is, Krishnaji had said there is no method. He, but then what about taking time to look at one's own thoughts and feelings? Is that also a method? So that was my question which came to my mind because I'm caught in the two. If I suppose I read last time one of the sessions there was Dada Gawand was mentioned, and in his autobiography he had taken some time out and he was looking at his own thoughts, and he was away in a natural place. So there was no external knowledge, or he could not ask anyone. It's only himself and his thoughts he was looking at. So on the one hand, I read about that, and on the other hand, mm, there's all this knowledge outside nowadays because of the internet. So I'm confused about that. Yeah. So is it a method to look at your own mind?
Is
Can
there
I answer
anyone to
this?
answer him? Is there anyone to answer him?
Yes. Can I answer him?
You have to answer first your question, then answer his question. Whatever you have asked, please
I
answer that.
already given answer, sir. According to me, total silence is not required. Even the Swamiji has given example of that scientist. In that case, also thought was continuously going on. On the contrary, he was in the mid of many thoughts, and still the insight has come. So insight has no barrier; it can come anytime, provided you are having the passion and interest, and you are honest and sincere, and many other things which we have already discussed earlier. Those things are there, then you can have insight.
So there is no question now. Am I clear?
I wanted to just see. I already told earlier that you have to have you have to have total understanding. When I listen to Swamiji, I get another aspect of it, or from another direction. So that is
Some other
very
under-
important, sir.
Some other understanding you got.
Yes,
Definitely.
and that is an. Now the answer to this gentleman's question, Adeen. Number one, your all conditioning has been made up of by outer knowledge, and when you see inside, those all outside knowledge has registered in your memory. So when you say I am looking at that, in other words, you are seeing your past programming and program all knowledge which you have gathered from the outside. So whether you go outside or whether you go inside, you have to face the same challenge. That you have to purify your thought, you have to reduce your thought, you have to complete your thought, you have to complete your assignment and get free from that. And if you passively even you are aware of it, then also you have to get rid of your feelings and this which are hurting you again, and you are pinching you. So in a way, that is the same thing. Now you want to tell this as a method, or you want to don't want to tell it as a method. It is up to you, because Krishnamurti was able to do it without sitting and without doing any meditation. In his normal life also he could do it. His moment to moment he could remain aware, and he could um, dead the thought after the completion of the thought. So if you are also having the same state of mind, then it's fine. If it is not, then it is you have to work on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Shakti Kumar, please. Shakti Kumar, please. Unmute and say.
Yeah, this is regarding Adeen
Thank
ji's
you very
question.
much. Thank you very much, Shakti ji. You have come.
Welcome.
I'm very happy. After a long, long time.
Yeah. This
Thank
Adeen ji's question. Welcome, sir.
Yeah,
Adeen ji's question I'm addressing.
yeah.
You see, Krishnamurti talks about test it out. Whatever, if I have read somewhere that is it possible to watch thoughts? So then I test it out whether it is possible or not. So that is different from method. Method presupposes a system and some outcome is projected, but if we read some statement, whether of Krishnamurti or anybody else, and we attempt to see what is the fact of it, so that is like Harshadji says that when he read Krishnamurti, he went and he started watching the beginning of thought. So anything which you read and you test it out in your own life, that is, you can call it method, doesn't matter, but that is the difference. That is a very subtle difference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Pradeep ji.
Yes,
Yeah, please.
I was also a little moved by Adeenji's question regarding method. One thing I have to say is the entity who is asking whether this is outside or inside, there is only one, there is no outside or inside. What you call outside, it also comes from the so-called inside. So what we brand it or categorize as knowledge from outside is not actually true. The entity who is asking this question has already labeled it variously in himself, in his own way, to be comfortable with his questions. But to see so-called inside, where probably light and darkness is not as saturated as so-called out when you are awake, when you can see in the morning. But otherwise, when you close your eyes, it becomes little different. It becomes a little different, but the entity remains there because reflective consciousness is there. Reflective consciousness, the consciousness only is there in various forms. We call knowledge, we call anything, because what Dinesh has talked about 15, 20, 30 cases, that these definitions on different synonyms, dictionary meanings and all that means different. He has collected different individuals, how they have felt at some time or the other. So this is something like reading case histories, but ultimately self-knowing, ultimately it comes back to me in the sense, it is not difficult to know my conditionings, my likes and dislikes in my daily life. It's not at all difficult. So if we categorize that outside or inside, that the problem, we have created some sort of artificial wall. The person who has queries, who has different queries about it. This is what I feel. It is the same thing. It is that same consciousness, and probably we are seeking answer from consciousness only, in a different state, in a different person who can see it probably the way you want or the way it will help you, but it is consciousness only. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.
Prasad sir. Prasad sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I am seeking this intervention to give whatever I am capable of, to give a comment on the question raised by Dinesh sir. He said, does understanding precede silence or silence precede understanding? I think it's a very relevant question, whether understanding produces silence or silence produces understanding. This is quite a relevant question and a very subtle question. But my reaction to this is, it is not one first and the other next. It is a simultaneous process. To the extent you understand, you become silent. To the extent you are silent, you become understanding. So, for sake of expression, we may put them one after the other, one next to the other as a sequel. But otherwise, as a matter of fact, they are simultaneous. Okay, sir. Thank you. That's all.
Can I
Thank you
also
very
make a comment on this?
Why not? You are always open, sir.
Hmm.
We are seeing you all the time. You never close it. So you are open. Please tell whatever you like.
It is very interesting. Let us go further in
Yeah.
this, whether silence is first or whether this understanding is first. JK has used it in both
Simultaneous
the
also.
ways. JK
Simultaneous
has
also.
used simultaneous also.
Simultaneous also.
Simultaneous also. JK has used it in both ways. Many places he has said that understanding can come into a silent mind only. And other places he has said, when you will have the total understanding of it, your mind will become totally silent without any quirk, like a rock hard state. So he has used it in both the ways. So anything is possible. That's what I want to say.
Thank you very much. Pradeep sir, you wanted to say further something more?
Little one sentence,
Oh,
because
yeah.
this question whether silence
Welcome.
is first or something is first. This itself, we are fragmented asking this question. Already, we have made two categories. Although Prasad sir has tried to pacify the whole thing, saying it is simultaneously. So the two becoming one. And what is that one? So that is one thing, that the moment we ask such questions, we are already pregnant. And we want someone either to answer that, or we want to answer that and ask questions. So both ways it is there, but it is in me. It is in me. So I am responsible for all this. But I am seeking solace from somewhere, space and time, individual or collective, like that. This is what I feel. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comment from Waghmare? You
Yes,
are
sir.
welcome to comment on it. Welcome.
Yes, today's topic is understanding.
Again,
And
starting
from the beginning, because freedom is at the beginning. Sometimes freedom is at the beginning, sometimes it is at the other shore. So
if my freedom begins from the beginning, it will be very hard, sir.
It is up to you. That is your problem, sir, not my problem. Whether it is harsh or you are labeling it, I am not labeling it.
Problem
For
to all.
me, love is only there. For me, love is only there.
Your problem to the all.
Love only exists. For me, only love exists. Okay, anyway.
Somebody
So
else.
what we are saying, when you say understanding.
Sir, Ravi Kaushal has come. Ravi Kaushal has come. Ravi Kaushal, you are visible, audible, both. Please say. You are welcome. Ravi Kaushal.
Please unmute.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
So, first, Prasad sir has started I think he started from the end in his first talk, when he said that in a funny manner, K said, "What is there to learn at last about the same movement of the self of the self?" So that is, I think, the beautiful thing that thing. I think that on in the question regarding understanding, it should come at the end. But anyhow, and one thing, Prasad sir also said that sometimes people said that we all are, we all are self-centered here, like something. We all have a self. Well, how can you conclude that? How can you talk about others? You can talk about yourself, only about yourself honestly, but not about others. You don't know all others. That is one thing, and that is your conclusion only. Mm, and I think that silence, sometimes silence is when there is nothing to learn about the self. And then the Pradeep sir is talking about.
Please unmute yourself again.
Thank you, Waghmare, helping me.
Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are audible to me.
Pradeep sir statement was that when when you are understanding yourself, something like that. So I see that at the end, who will understand whom? It is the same entity. So one thing is this, and then there is Dinesh sir is talking about the understanding, what K said on understanding, that the instant clarity, and the total insight. That is beautiful. That the understanding, which takes no time at all. Does listening and act instantly. There is instant understanding, and it clears out all the things. So the mind that that clarity and that understanding is something when the mind doesn't fall back in the previous misunderstanding. Then there is no previous misunderstanding. There is total absolute clarity. And in an instant, that thing is in an instant. And the Pradeep sir is talking about again seeing and listening. पता नहीं क्या लिखा है. Seeing and listening. Sir, seeing, you're saying that everything is a part of consciousness, something like that. So I'm saying that is seeing or listening the part of consciousness. Only seeing and listening, without bringing your understanding, without bringing your anything, just see the fact and listen the fact. That is the only thing. So one thing, the question which Prasad sir is saying, quite relevant question, whether the silence is first or whether the understanding is first, like that. So I see that somehow silence is not dependent upon understanding. But the understanding, there cannot be any understanding if the mind is not silent to see and perceive. So I think the silence is much more deeper than the understanding. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Last, that Adeen sir's question I missed somehow, and that somehow I see that I think he gave that answer so clearly that there is that the seeing and listening is something to your mind. You don't need any outside agency, and then you are asking the same question from the old pattern. Like I see your question like that, but anyhow, I didn't listen fully completely. So thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can I say now?
You are always welcome, sir. You remain open, you are welcome. But
Today's topic.
take the last note, please. Please make a last note. It is already 7:18. I said to finish it 7:15. So I will finish it at 7:20. Please.
Okay, okay. Last note.
Okay.
Today's topic is understanding,
Mm.
and it is very interesting and very important to note that unlike thought, once understanding is there, it doesn't come and go like thought. It remains there. Means it changes the state of mind. It can be changed later on because if the fact changes, if fact changes, understanding changes. Otherwise, as long as fact is remains same, the understanding will also remain same. So this behavior between thought and understanding, this has to be clearly noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Modak sir, would you please end it now?
Okay, sir, with understanding.
Okay.